we're really going to do this, right? We're going to make a multimedia player. All right, let's go ahead and do that. Hey, if you're new to this channel, my name's Rob. I'm a coding instructor for FreeCodeCamp. And in these video series that we're doing, we are going through step by step with the labs as well as workshops that FreeCodeCamp out there offers for you. And one of the benefits of watching these videos here that I make is that you get a little bit of an instructor's point of view where we are going to be teaching you a few things along the way. And if you get stuck in your trying to do it by yourself, that's where these videos are trying to help you and making sure that you are understanding things and finding things in the right documentation. So if that's something that interests you, hey, keep watching. And if you can do us a favor here, make sure you hit that like button because it really helps out that YouTube algorithm. And with that being said, let's go ahead and dive into what we're actually going to be creating with the Build a Multimedia Player. Okay, so typically if you're at this point in the game, you kind of know a little bit about FreeCodeCamp. Again, we have been going through FreeCodeCamp's modules and trying to teach it to you through YouTube. But it looks like they are always adding on to some of these modules because it was just recently brought to my attention that, hey, we skipped over some. Well, when we were going through them originally, we didn't skip over them. They just didn't have this one. And that is the case for here. This is what we're going to be building here. They provided us with a little bit of an example. And with all these, as we're going through FreeCodeCamp's items, especially when we get to the CSS stage, they kind of tell you to, hey, don't use this exact code in order to create the stuff. But without CSS, it's really hard to style it the way that you might want to do with this. So this is what we're going to be creating. It looks like we have a little audio player here. And again, they're going to be providing us with the files that go along with this or the references to them. And then it has another video here that we're going to be embedding. And notice that we have controls on here. You have the ability to download and adjust the playback speed. And all this stuff comes from the browser. Like, you really don't have to do a lot of coding. You just have to let the browser know, hey, this is going to be an audio file. Hey, this is going to be a video file. And let it render the page here for you with everything here. Anyways, let's go ahead and get into the user stories. I'm going to be breaking this video down based upon user stories. And the way that I typically do everything here is I'm not going to try something out and then test it out, because down here at the very end, you're going to be able to run and test. And these things are going to have like little check marks if you got them correct, or they're going to have, like, hey, you did not get this right. So we're just going to go down one by one through the user stories. And at the very end of the video, we're going to go ahead and test it out. And I'm going to have it chaptered out where if we do have to go back and fix a few things, that it is annotated properly on the description. So read the description if you're wanting to know about a certain step or a user story that we did. Okay, let's go ahead and begin our user stories. Okay, so user story number one is, it says that we need to have an H1 element for the main title of the page. And this is what is going to be visually shown for us. And so that is why we need to make sure that we are putting all of our code in the body section. Because if we remember from before, from the other lessons that we've gone through, this is just sort of like little metadata things for the browser to know and realize. And one of the things that is shown, if we were to open this up in the tab, this would be the title of the tab. But we want to start all of our coding right here in the body. And so that's where I'm going to put that H1 that we're talking about here. And I'm just going to hit the tab button. And I'm going to do our H1. And the thing that I'm always saying in every single one of my videos is whenever we have an opening tag, let's go ahead and close it off. That way we don't forget. I can't tell you how many students that go through the course, they're like, hey, this is broken code. And it's all because of a single closing tag that is missing. And I'll also tell you that you will fail the tests down below if you don't do it properly. So anyways, it just says an H1 for the main title. And this is just going to be multimedia player is what they use. And I don't see any text on here on what it tells me to put in here, but we're just going to put multimedia player. We're just going to make it exactly like the example with this. Okay. All right. Perfect. We already are starting to see the preview here come into play. And let me make sure that we can see this all properly with all of our buttons and everything. So cool. Multimedia player, that is our H1. That should solve our user story number 1. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to the next user story here. So user story number 2 here, it says that it needs to have 3 section elements. And if you remember from before that the section elements, these are just semantic tags, right? They don't do anything visually for us, but it will kind of section things off not only from a program point of view, but also from SEO, screen reader type of elements that we're putting on here. And what it's looking for is this right here. It just wants an opening and closing of the section. Later on, we're going to fill it in. But for right now, to keep things kind of separate, I'm just going to copy this and then I'm going to paste it. I'm going to hit the Enter key, paste it again. Now I have the 3 sections. They're very nicely placed on here and good for organization purposes because I'm sure we're going to be adding things to it. I really like that FreeCodeCamp is kind of taking this from, hey, here's what you're going to be making, to that way you're not getting overwhelmed, to breaking it down user story by user story on how to make this HTML page complete by breaking it down into smaller and smaller pieces. Once we get to the audio section and stuff, looks like we have some examples here that we can kind of pull from and kind of refactor to make our own. Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and move on to the next user story here. User story number 3. It says here inside the first section, let's go ahead and utilize an H2 element with the title of the song that is playing. So I'm just coming up here to my very first section and I'm going to place that H2 in here. Again, practicing that opening and closing tags will save you in the testing area. So in between here, this is where we're going to put in here now playing, sailing away. All right, perfect. Like I said, we're not going to see the sections visually. However, they are going to be separated. And then there's our H2 that we're putting in for the header. That satisfies user story number 3. User story number 4, it tells us that below the H2, we should have an audio element with the controls attribute and the aria-label attribute. And this is the point where I'm going to take you to W3 Schools to kind of look at the audio tag and maybe just do a little bit of looking, because, you know, one of the things that I might want to learn about is like, well, what kind of file types do these accept, right? And that's where W3 Schools comes into play. We can take a look here, and it has provided us with some example code. Here we can see that it comes with 2 sources, and we have the horse OGG, and then we have the horse MP3, and then of course the default here of, hey, we're going to try to use these in the order, and then the browser doesn't support it. So it says here that the audio tag is used to embed the sound. The audio tag contains the source, and the browser will choose the first source that it supports. And that's what I was kind of telling you. It's going to try this one first, and if it doesn't support it, it's going to move on to the next one. And as far as what file types do they support, you can kind of see here that it supports MP3, WAV files, and then the OGG. And I don't know if that is the OG of OGG. No, I'm just joking. I don't know. But the OGG here looks like it might be the superior one, but some browsers don't support it, like Safari. And you need to provide a fallback, which is either a WAV file or an MP3. Okay. And then it even hints at what we're going to be doing next here, which is the video tags. Other things to note with this as we're going around and playing with it, feel free to add some of these attributes later on once we get done with all of this is, hey, let's go ahead and do an autoplay. So that means it autoplays at the very beginning. However, I don't know specifically if, I know in modern browsers, they try to, even with video, the video will autoplay, but you can't really hear anything until you unmute it. So that might be something to take into consideration here. Okay. But anyways, let's go back to our page here. And if you remember earlier, we said that, hey, they provide you with some example code. So I'm going to copy that and I want to paste it down here. And remember, when you guys are developing stuff, there'll be times where you're going to take some example code that you find from the W3 schools or Indian docs. And it's okay to go ahead and take it, paste it, and then you can obviously modify it to make it your own. So you can kind of see here that it came with the audio tags and it also came with the source. And in this case here, we're only going to be utilizing one source. And then we have that closing audio tag on here. So anyways, I believe the next user story is going to tell us what we actually want to put in there. But for now, we do want to go ahead and give it a real quick descriptive label here for the label. And we're just going to put the audio for sailing away. And the aria-label, that is going to be for the screen readers out there in order to help when somebody has that screen reader, when they hover over it, it will talk for them. So anyways, that's what that one will do. Let's move on to the next user story here so we can get the source. Okay, so user story number 5, it says the audio element that we have, it should have a source element in here, which we have it right here. Okay, so there's our source. And it wants us to adjust our SRC attribute, which is right here, and add in this right here. Again, anything that FreeCodeCamp gives us that is highlighted in gray, it is going to be necessary to use and put in there in order for tests to pass. So I'm going to go ahead and delete the inside. And remember, we're staying within the quotes that you see there on the left and right. And I'm just going to go ahead and paste it in there. Okay. And so now we can actually see, hey, we have a timestamp now. We have a slider here with the controls, allowing it to move to a certain position. And you should be able to play it because they did give us a real MP3 file or an audio file for us to try out and listen. So at this point, it'd be good to go ahead and hit the play button and test that out. And again, real quick, 3 simple lines of code in order to get this to work, which is pretty amazing. Browser did all that stuff by itself to create that little control panel there for us. We didn't have to do it. Okay. All right. So that should satisfy user story number 5. So user story number 6, it says, now inside the second section, which we have right here, let's go ahead and put in the H2 element and then give it the title. And again, I don't think that the tests are checking for any certain title name. I'm just going to use exactly what they had before. And so we're just going to do the H2. And again, good practice closing off those tags. And the one that we're going to do for the video is which is a map method, or what is a map method and how does it work? And that's what we're going to put in there. So let's go ahead and do that. So inside the H2, what is a map method and how does it work with a question mark? And we can see that it shows up right here on our little preview. And so that should satisfy here the user story number 6. Okay, user story number 7 here. It says below the H2 element, we should have the video element with controls and everything. And just like we did with the audio one, let's go to W3 Schools for the video and just talk about a few things and take a look at some of the similarities that we had with the audio. So notice that we have the video tag opening, close, and in between here, we can have multiple sources. And just like before with the audio, we're able to say, hey, browser, I want you to use the MP4 version first, and then let's use the movie 3 as a fallback in case the browser doesn't recognize that. And so we can kind of see which ones will recognize what. And again, Safari is the one that does not like the OGG. And then the other thing that I wanted to bring your attention to is some additional attributes that we could actually add to our video tag. And again, this doesn't go on the source, that goes on the video tag itself. And, think about autoplay, right? Maybe you visited a funnel that auto-played a video. And like I told you before, that usually videos are muted, even though it is auto-playing in the background. And that's just a browser kind of sensitivity setting. So that way when the video does play in the background, that it stays muted. All you have to do is have that user click the button in order to hear it. but it won't play it automatically with it being unmuted. So anyways, that is the video tag. You can take a look at that on W3 Schools. And once you get done with this, you can play around with some of those attributes that I told you about and try putting them in there, see what happens when you add them. And you already see that we're going to be having one already, which is controls, that says that the controls should be displayed, such as the play button and everything else. So let's go ahead and go back to the code here, and let's go ahead and add our video tags. So just like we discussed earlier, those tags are up here, and let's go ahead and copy them and paste them right below that H2 that we just got done typing out. And of course, we're going to be able to add in the necessary items here. It doesn't give us what we should put in the aria-label. Again, I'm just going to put the title, kind of like the title of the video, in there. And that should work for our needs, which is what is a map method and how does it work? So we can go ahead and copy that, paste it in there, and that should work. And then we are going to address the source here in the next user story, because it says on number 8, that's what we're going to be doing here. So let's go ahead and do that. So that user story number 8 says inside the video element, you should have a source element, as well as the src attribute pointing to the video file and the type attribute that you are going to be utilizing. Feel free to use the video URL that they provided us with right here. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that, and then I'm going to paste that right here, and making sure that I'm in between the quotation marks there. And then also notice that the type here says video/MP4. Another indication of what goes there. It says remaining code goes here. Again, that's if we're going to be adding more sources or even a track. And so that might be what we're going to be doing in the next user story. So that should satisfy user story number 8 by putting that video in there. And notice that it did come with a width of 600, which is fine. And then there's the controls attribute that we said, hey, this is what shows the play button for us on our video element. All right. Okay, moving on. Let's go to the next user story. All right, so user story number 9 here, it says below the source element, which is right here, where we have remaining code goes here. It wants us to add a track element with the source, as well as the kind, the source language, the label. And now I don't think that they give us any kind of information up here about it, but that doesn't mean that we can't look it up from W3 School. And if you go there, it kind of gives you a little bit of information, a little more intel on what does it look like and maybe the definition of it here. And so anyways, what we're looking for is a track element. And what this will do here for us is it will kind of like overlay some text that comes from this VTT. I believe it's a video text tiles. Video text titles is what VTT stands for. And basically, maybe think of this, maybe when you are on Zoom, for example, you get a little bit of a transcript of that meeting, or if you're doing any type of work where it has transcribed the video for you and you have the ability to export a VTT file, you can specify and upload that to your server and say, hey, for English, here's what the subtitles should be, or here's what the captions should be for this video. And, you know, taking a look at what they had and what they've done is, like I said, we're going to go through it. We can almost copy this exact thing from W3 Schools and then apply what they want us to do from the FreeCodeCamp point of view. So let's go back to the code here. And let's go ahead and paste that in there. And again, we're just going to refactor. As far as the source goes, and again, I don't know, I haven't done this one. This is my first time going through it with you all. So it's my first time going through it also. But I wanted to make sure that we had things the way that they kind of set things up for. And for their source, what they ended up using, and again, I don't know if this is going to work or if it's going to reference the actual VTT file or not, but that's what they used. And then as far as the kind, they want that to be captions. The source language is English, so we're going to shorten that to EN. And let's go ahead and double check on any other things here. The source attribute, I guess it really didn't give us anything as far as what should go on there. And then the last part on here of what they had in their code, because I did take a look at it here, is they put default here. They didn't have any other track, so I don't know why they put the default on here, but that should satisfy our needs for the track element to be put on there, okay? So next is going to be user story number 10 and then 11. So let's go ahead and move on to user story number 10. So, before I move on to user story number 10, I did want to briefly bring up here that, this VTT, think of it almost like a Word document, and you are uploading that to your server and you're referencing the source based upon where this is. So again, I haven't tested this out. I don't know if it actually shows the captions on there or not, but this will satisfy that user story. Now, user story number 10, it says now that we are in the next section here. So this is our very last section. It wants us to do an H2 element. So we're going to go ahead and do the H2. And again, opening and closing tags right off the bat. And then we can go ahead and put in here what it wants. And it says it should have an H2 element with the title of this section. And they gave the example of transcript. So let's go ahead and do that. Perfect. Okay, that should satisfy user story number 10. Let's move on to this very last one. Okay, so user story number 11, it says below the H2, let's have a paragraph element. Let's go ahead and do that. And it should have the transcript of the video. Again, you can go to the example that they gave you from the very top of this item here, of the example project, and just copy and paste what they put from here. So I would highlight this and then copy that and then paste it down below. So let's do that. And there we go. We got the transcript. Okay, let's go ahead and test this out. I think we're all done with our user stories. All right, so here we go. Fingers crossed. All right, here we go. Running the test. Hopefully we get some sort of confetti. There we go. And we completed this whole lesson with a multimedia player. All right. So if you made it this far, great. Hopefully this video helped you. We learned a few things along the way. We did audio tags, video tags, and we learned about the track tag. And that might be probably one of the only confusing parts because they didn't give us any kind of reference to it. But again, we know how to go to MDN Docs. We know how to go to W3 Schools in order to get those things done. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the like button. And if you did get stuck, put down the comment down below where you got stuck and how you solved it. Would really love to read and hear those types of comments. All right. So take care. We'll see you in the next lesson. That was a fun one. Take care.